going into these events, equipment's what matters. On our team, we're so talented. My job has fallen into like a role player's position. In order for Kyle or Brandon or Alex to make these moves, they need support so that we can win the tournament. And that's what I'm doing with this LV1. I'm able to go to a spot and get a lot of drop shots on people and really shoot just directly over a bunker where people think they're safe, and the next thing you know, I'm getting those kills. My name is Oliver Lang from San Diego Dynasty, and I shoot the LV1.
To the breakdown brought to you by PaintballAccess.com. I'm Matty Marshall with Todd Martinez. Today we're going to be talking about the Top Gun leaders for the year through 2 events. And Todd, number 1, Archie Monami, man. Archie Monami, you know, we always say, every time we bring up him, start talking about his career, him and Colt Roberts have widely been considered the best players ever to come out of the great state of Texas. And the team they play on, X Factor, is obviously proven that they are the best team ever to come out of the state of Texas. So it's cool to see him sitting atop again for the 2nd event in a row now, still with the lead, but barely over Oliver Lang, who is the number 2 guy.
Yeah, and Archie's just doing what Archie always does too. It's not like he's really come out and played better than he's ever played before. You know, he is just a solid, consistent player that constantly shoots people on the break, makes really smart fills, plays clutch, and is just a really great all-around player. So it's not surprising at all, like you said, for him to be in that number 1 slot. And X Factor is playing well off the backs of he and Colt Roberts. So that whole team really stepping up and playing well as a unit right now, and Archie's definitely leading the charge for that team.
Yeah, and this field definitely, even though Archie hated the field, it was a field that I felt played to his strengths. He's an incredibly smart guy, and that intelligence comes over when he plays the game. A lot of times you'll meet guys that are just whip smart, but for some reason it doesn't necessarily carry, and that's carry on to the actual in-game, inner-point chaos that happens sometimes. But Archie's ability to process variables and see what's in front of him and to make the executive decision to either stay or go make a big dynamic move to fill out is really kind of what makes him the player that he is. Also, he's not a big guy, he's pretty fast, but he's not blazing fast. But he just has that incredible gunfight logic. Guys like Ryan Greenspan, guys like Archie Monami, they just have this innate ability to understand when to engage, when not to engage. We did an interview actually with him on PaintballAccess.com. Check it out. And basically he said, every time you shoot your gun, you're shooting it for a reason. And he was kind of talking about that gunfight logic. And I think his higher level of understanding is now coupled with his experience, because the guy's been playing paintball at a high level for a long time. He actually went and played on Dynasty for a little bit before coming back when they got the band back together for X Factor and started to make their current push. And they're the currently reigning world champs. So they went 2-2 at the last event. Didn't have to play in a relegation game, which was huge for them. But not the performance they wanted to have, because they look at kind of like, hey man, every event we should be contending for a win. But I kind of feel that with how good all these teams are, I've actually not been disappointed in X Factor's performances. They had some, in Dallas, that their story was just come from behind victory after come from behind victory. They couldn't get it done against you guys in that event though.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's tough. It's tough to talk about MAO because out of our bracket, with Damage and X Factor and Vicious, Damage ended up making it in at 2-1-1. X Factor goes 2-2 and doesn't make it, and then we ended up going 1-2-1, and it came down to the very last game of the prelims against X Factor, and that was I believe a 3-2 game or a 2-1 game. I think we played our first point was a 10-minute point or something like that. So everything was really, really tight. But I mean, those type of players are the type of players that you want on your team. That when the things get tight, when it gets to the high level, the late Sunday games, the games that matter, those are the type of guys that you want on our team, because they understand the pressure and they know how to get it done.
Yeah, it's also going to help Archie, too, that they got Michael Kovar back. They have Billy Bernaccia, and they have Dimitri Nino. So 3 guys that can play the snake and play it well is really going to help him because he typically plays the 2 on that side, though he can play everywhere. So let's move on to number 2, Oliver Lang. No surprise there, 2013 Top Gun Award winner. And he came into the first event, and I felt just played phenomenal, and then came into the second event where Dynasty went undefeated and they won the tournament, and also looked amazing too. And it was interesting because Rusty Glaze and the coaching crew from Dynasty to Brain Trust was sending Oliver up to that center 50 with like 13, 14 pods on his back, which is a pretty interesting tactical decision to send one of your more mobile attacker type players with an armory on his back up to that center position to basically shut it down. But that's, I felt what Dynasty did better than most teams was they were able to really control the pace of the action on a slower tactical field and just out gunfight people and out move them. Timing. It was all about their paintball IQ being better than the teams that they were playing, and Oliver really played that center well.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at Dallas as well, I really feel like you said last breakdown that Dynasty has only lost 1 game, and it was that game to Infamous.
Yeah.
Okay, they very easily could have won that game as well, and that's the difference between them making the finals or not. Well, if you look at the difference between Archie and Oliver, Oliver is number 1 in G rating.
Yes.
Okay, so his survival is lower than Archie's. His win rating is higher. His winfluence is higher. Oliver has 1 penalty, but Archie's played a lot more games. Okay, but if you look at the tournaments and the games that were played, the way that Dynasty was beating teams in Dallas was because of the way Oliver Lang was playing. He was going up that middle, shooting people on the break, making these big moves and getting into spots and destroying people, and the rest of the team was playing well off of him. If you look at MAO, they won MAO because Oliver was shooting people on the break, making big moves, getting up the middle, and dominating and leading the charge for his team. Yes, Archie's in number 1 right now, but Oliver Lang is the reason why Dynasty is playing so well, hands down. You can't tell me any different. He is the guy that is getting up there, he's getting kills, but he is creating the havoc. He's LeBron James right now for the Miami Heat. He can get wherever he wants, he can do whatever he wants. The rest of the team just needs to play, alongside what he's doing.
And they have been.
Yeah, and it's not like that the rest of Dynasty is a bunch of slouches.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of other guys, Ryan Greenspan, Yosh Rao, Glenn Takamoto, everybody on that Dynasty roster is playing really good paintball right now, but the way Oliver Lang is in the zone right now is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. So heading on to number 3 is, lo and behold, Colt Roberts. So nipping at the heels of both Oliver and his teammate Archie is Colt Roberts. And, the thing with X Factor that made them so competitive at the World Cup and ended up winning that tournament for them was the entire crew stepping up and really, Scott Kemp had a great event in World Cup. Scott Kemp had a great event in Dallas, too. I mean, he was our 4th ranked guy heading into the event. He, dropped down into the teens after this last event. But X Factor still is going to be a threat when they have guys like Archie and Colt putting up the numbers that they're putting up. I mean, Colt's 4th in the G rating. That's basically his specialty. Colt goes out and just kills people, man. He's a wrecking ball out there, but he's a smart, methodical wrecking ball. That's the good thing about having a guy like Colt Roberts, who's so thoroughly experienced. And I mean, when X Factor first began, he was the more experienced, a little bit older guy coming on the team to help guide. And I don't think he gets, obviously Alex Martinez and Ryan Brand and the whole crew of the guys that kind of coach and run that team. But they have a cool brain trust too, and Colt's one of those big players. So it's not just on the field; it's in the pits, it's helping out at practice, it's coming up with game plans, and I think that's one of the reasons that Colt and his crew have been doing so well. But it is great to see Colt in the top 5.
Well, Colt's always been that most aggressive guy. When you looked at X Factor for a long time, it was like, okay, they're going to come hard down the Doritos side. We got to stop Colt. Colt's going to lead the charge. He's the most aggressive guy. He's going to attack. Archie's going to clean it up. Grayson's going to be there alive and smart. But now that X Factor has a good snake side attack over there too with Bernaccia, Ninos, and Kovar. That allows Colt a lot more flexibility. He can play smarter. He doesn't have to carry the burden all the time, where they depend on him every game to get down that Dorito side. And X Factor's getting a lot less penalties these days because they're playing smarter, they're playing better as a team. So, Colt Roberts, the way that the team has gotten better, the way that they've added more pieces to be able to be more of a solid, consistent attack on both sides of the field has really brought the most out in Colt's game. And now we can really see the type of player that he is, and he's shown it, 4th in the G rating and 3rd overall.
Yeah, and the only thing that's really hurting Archie, and obviously Archie's in first, so it's not hurting him too much, but is the fact that X Factor has lost some games this year. They're not decimating everyone every single game they play and winning out like, say, Dynasty is. So, a guy like Oliver, anybody that's on Dynasty is going to have a little bump in the rating because, that's one of the metrics that we use is win rating and win fluence. So, if X Factor gets on the ball here in the, at Chicago, and also remember to sign up if you haven't already, man. Go to pspevents.com, Chicago event. PSP is coming. It's the 3rd stop on the tour. It's coming 19th through the 22nd of June. And, obviously we'll have the webcast brought to you by Pample Access. But if they can tighten it up a little bit in the semifinals and not get such a slow start, and they start getting, the win ratings start to go up a little bit and the win fluence goes up a little bit, that could really help them out here in the push to see who's going to be the top gun here at the end of the year.
Well, both Archie and Colt are both in the top 10 in points played as well. Yeah. A lot of those come from behind games, had a lot to do with that. But these guys are on the field every game. Yeah. Archie and Colt, they're playing a ton of points. So, it makes it harder when you're out there that much, really getting out there. Oliver is 24th in points played right now. And our 4th guy on this list is Brandon Short. He's got 45. He's 45th in points played. So, Colt and Archie are really out there a lot for X Factor.
Yeah, absolutely, and rightfully so. It definitely makes sense. Now, the thing with Brandon Short here coming in at number 4 is I felt Brandon Short, we're talking about how well here early on in this particular episode about how well Oliver was setting the tempo. Actually, the very first person to set the tempo, I felt, for Dynasty was Brandon Short, and then he continued to play well throughout the event, which is, obviously shown by his 4th place ranking overall. Through 2 events. He's 12th in the G rating, killing a lot of guys, 33rd in survivability. Brandon's, he's a 2 now. He did not the missile that he was in the early part of his career. 2nd in win rating, win fluence 10th. Did get he has had 2 penalties, which is hurting him out throughout the year, and 45th in points played, like you were saying. And then this is kind of a strange one, not necessarily because of the name, but because of how the team did at the last event. But it's Sergei Sonaiskov is our 5th overall right now, and from Art Chaos. So. Art Chaos played terrible at the last event, which was basically a 180 from what everyone thought they were going to do. Everyone thought they were going to come in and really, if not handle most of the teams they played, at least contend. And they did not have a good event. But as evidenced by the numbers that Sergei put up, I felt that was Fedorov's probably worst tournament I've maybe ever seen him play. And Mishka didn't have a great event either. So, but I do feel like Sergei was still putting up some kills. It wasn't enough.
Yeah, I honestly felt like the biggest problem with Art Chaos that last event was just game planning.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah, they tried to do. You saw it work with some teams, but the way that Dynasty won the event was with the way that they played. Keeping it in tight. Very low risk, tons of bodies, very strategic. Tactical type games, and Art Chaos was trying to win by getting out wide and attacking, and that wasn't the way that this tournament was won. Yeah. And they didn't make many adjustments, if any, really at all, until very, very late. And I think that's what really cost them. And Fedorov was the victim of kind of those game plans where they were trying to get out super wide and go fast when that wasn't this type of field. And I think that's kind of what hurt his gameplay. And it really came down to guys like Sergei and Alexander Bierdnikov, trying to win games down a lot of bodies. And, he was obviously putting up some numbers out there, but yeah, Art Chaos didn't play very well as a team. And, that really hurt their overall ranking.
Yeah, and they're heading down to the Challengers Division. So we're going to have to find out, how's this going to play out throughout the year? And also, these are the guys you might want to think about picking for your fantasy team, though. They're going to be a little bit more expensive for the next one. But it is interesting. Also, go check out the rest of our stats on Paintball Access under the stats page. And man, definitely sign up for the PSP 19th through the 22nd. That's going to be held at CPX. I can't wait for that event. You know, the Chicago event is historically the second hardest event to win other than the World Cup. So expect a bloodbath. It's going to be crazy. Expect a pretty awesome field layout too. I can't wait to see that. And thank you guys for tuning into the breakdown. There's the top 5 Top Gun leaders for 2014 so far. Still 3 events to play. We'll see you guys next time.
Oh, get out, sucker! Bye, sucker! Night, night!
If you want some summer fun this year, join the JT First Shot Challenge, Saturday, June 21st at the Chicago PSP Open. It's only $75 per team, and all of your gear and equipment is included. This event is all ages 9 and up and requires no experience. There will be prizes for 1st through 3rd. Teams, you can get a free case of Evil Paint by referring a team to this exciting low-impact sport. You'll also get tips from pros, free tickets, and discounts in the PSP Chicago event. For more information, go to jtfirstshot.com.
There are massive opportunities, both for the sport of paintball and for your business. If we are successful in taking our sport to another level, unite with Paintball Access in our quest to elevate paintball and broadcast it to the world. There are advertising packages available for any size business. Join us. Advertise with PBA and help us change the sport for the better, forever.